Hello everyone. Today we're going ahead and summarizing chapters 9 to 18 of Walden, Life in the Ponds. Let's get this started with. Now, firstly, chapter 9 goes ahead and ends up us starting off in autumn. Now, autumn, of course, if you live in the States, of course, you get autumn as in like the yellow leaves, the orange leaves, the red leaves, all that falling down, the trees shedding off their leaves and those kinds of things. Well, with that, of course, there's a lot of that happening. But then there's this one little thing that's a little different for Henry David Thoreau during his time in Walden Pond. During his time in Walden Pond, the only thing that literally happens towards him is the fact that he has to go ahead and race to prepare for winter. So, if you remember from our last episode of Walden, which was recorded a week ago, you would basically remember that that he himself is working 6 days, like resting 6 days a week and working 1 day a week instead of working 6 days a week and resting for the last final day. No. For him, it's more or less like the opposite. So if you remember that, it's going to be pretty hard to get food. So he goes ahead and starts stockpiling. I also think that he adds like an extra day of work because winter's coming, but he puts inside just as much as he needs. He basically, as soon as he feels a bit not hungry, he just stops eating. I'm not sure what he does with the leftovers though. He can't throw it away, but I'm also not really sure how he cools it off. My guess is that he basically goes ahead and works a little bit too. He goes ahead, visits Concord, of course, and so much has happened there himself as well too. Concord itself is his home place. It's great for him too, and he still visits there just to go ahead and look at what the people are like too. And this is nonetheless, of course. Not really sure if I mentioned this already or not, but since he got arrested once already, he went ahead and wrote his civil disobedience. Well, he was arrested because he wouldn't pay his taxes, as in protest against the U.S. government during the American-Mexican War. And unfortunately for the Mexicans, the Americans won and they lost a bit of Texas. They conceded a bit of Texas towards them and some other lands as well too. Mexico became a bit smaller, but yeah. Next up, of course, we even have a few more things to talk about. Walden Pond froze, and it's autumn. There are a bunch of animals going out. In fact, some of the animals even look different to ourselves too. Henry David Thoreau himself goes ahead and looks at them more closely and thinks, that's different. That is different. And with all that, more and more things happen. Next thing that we find out is that we realize that everyone here right now is just going to be a little different. He goes outside and realizes, I should have mentioned it already, but the reason why he's out of jail right now is not because he ran away, but his aunt probably his aunt, we don't know who, paid the taxes for him. But anyways, some visitors came in, and they go ahead and spend their time with him too. The woodchopper, the poet, and the philosopher. Next thing that happens is that the lake freezes, and so to get a drink of water, he has to break the ice with an axe. Afterwards, more things happen. Afterwards, this happens where he goes ahead and finds out that, wow, this is actually great, this is awesome, and those kinds of things. But what we actually find out is this. So I heard that the ice was frozen now, and so people need to go ahead and break the ice and send it off to the other world. In fact, that's literally what Walden Pond was for back then. Walden Pond goes ahead, and it's still there today. It still fishes during the time. It's just that we don't harvest ice anymore. The book itself even says that there are these details that are so well known that there's no point in describing them. But today, they're not that well known. Ice harvesting is a lost art now, because nowadays you can just, like, a bunch of people around the world can just make ice right outside in their refrigerators if they can afford one. And they can't, well, they can make an ice box, which is relatively easy to make and pretty cheap. Ice, of course, is basically frozen water, and water frozen just expands, making it a pretty important, useful thing as well too. With that in mind, the ice breaking itself is pretty important too. Henry David Thoreau himself took out a chunk of ice, looked at it, and realized there was a bubble in the middle. The bubble was at the bottom of the ice, but then the ice grew around the bubble, and now it's stuck in there. He goes ahead and says the ice has some natural phenomena from it. Afterwards, of course, he somehow survives the winter. And then he says, the second year just went ahead like that, spring, summer, winter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, then spring, summer, autumn, winter again. And afterwards, he said, I finally left Walden Pond on September 6th of 1847. And with that, you've basically ended Walden. Except there's this one more chapter called Conclusion. In the conclusion chapter, so much has happened right now. He basically describes that, why did I leave Walden Pond? It just feels like that there are many more lives that are destined for me to live, and I could spare no more time for the one I was living right now. That's a pretty good reason, but then again, he is a transcendentalist. Ralph Waldo Emerson was a mentor and a leading figure in transcendentalism. Went ahead and inspired him to do all this too. And then that's it. He just left Walden Pond and probably went to go back to doing something else privately. Unlike his mentor, who did things a bit publicly and for the public good, as he said. And with that, we end Henry David Thoreau's Walden. I'll see you guys in the full book summary. Bye bye.